which is quadratic voting. And the way quadratic voting, for those of you who are not familiar, works, first of all, it depends on unique identity. And so who's defining those unique identities? Civil tax. It's kind of glossed over quite frequently in a lot of those quadratic funding. And Pomelo actually relied on Eden for a lot of proof of person. And the reason it relies on unique identity is because the first dollar someone contributes is matched more than the second, third, or 10th dollar that they contribute to the same project. So the more you contribute to something, the less the community matches you, which means it's better for 10 people to contribute $1 than one person to contribute $10 to a particular project. The issue that you have with that type of system is, what if one half is funding abortion and the other's funding pro-life? You're working against yourself, right? All over again. And so the community funds are being divided, and it's kind of like working contrary. Now, maybe that can work from a perspective of a VC, where you make 100 bets and only one needs to win big. And that one pays for all the cost of all the other bets. But it doesn't necessarily work for efficiently allocating a direction of a community or community decision making, right? Because in that situation, the community's not actually making decisions. They're just funding a bunch of stuff, hoping something big benefits the community, and they're willing to take all the other losses. But if you want to make a decision, say, adopt new bylaws or figure out should this member be in or out, they can't be partially in and partially out. And you don't want to waste funding. So one of the things we gain by doing this fractal process every week is we do reach 2/3 consensus on everything in a fractal manner. And that 2/3 consensus allows us to integrate everyone's opinion with the wisdom of the crowds and move in a common direction that is leaderless, in the sense that you don't have political power. Someone like me might have a lot of sway over a lot of people's opinions and can kind of like guide, but I don't have the political power to say this is the direction we're going no matter what. I have to be persuasive. And that is the difference between what we're doing with a fractal structure and every other token weighted system out there, or any other truly democratic system out there. Other systems are basically invite only, oligarchy. You're either part of the ruling class or invited by them, right? It's kind of like appointing mods, right? That's the other way things are governed. You start off with one leader, they're the leader. No real democracy. You join or not join, depends on whether or not you like where they go. But the key to any system to test whether or not it's democratic is, are the people free to come and go? Not just theoretically, but practically. So you can have a kingdom that is democratic, you've got a king. As long as you can secede from the kingdom without the king hunting you down, you're still free because it's voluntary. You voted for that kingdom. Even if you're in the minority in a democracy, as long as you choose to stay, you're consenting. As long as you have the ability to leave. But as soon as we go to a model where you don't have the ability to leave, that switches to be from being democracy, which is ruled by all the people's consent, to being majoritism, which is the majority rule the minority. And the way majoritism works is you got a bunch of people on a boat, they all want to go, or 2/3 want to go one way. Rather than letting the other 1/3 off the boat, you chain them in the galleys and say row. And they're having to row to support the majority. That's just the majority enslaving the minority. And ironically, the minority can enslave the majority if everyone is codependent, so no one can actually leave. The minority is where the current consensus is. These are your rulers, your politicians, your incumbents. And the masses don't have the means to reach a new consensus on how to replace them. Now the minority can steer the ship because everyone else is too uncoordinated and divided to steer the direction of the ship. So fractal democracy allows us to come to consensus. It structuring things as democracies of democracies maintains the independence necessary to keep the consent, and things can go forward. So in the process of doing this, I realized that we really have two concepts that I've been mixing. One is fractal democracy, and that's democracies of democracies, right? Counties voting for to join a state. Each county gets one vote. Then states, the federal, each state gets one vote. And then internationally, each country gets one vote. That would be a fractal democracy of democracies. But what we're doing here, I think, is actually more like fractal voting or fractal consensus building. It's the process of aggregating individual opinions within a democracy. And that's the dividing up into random groups of 5 or 6 and repeating that. So one of the ideas that was presented, and I'm not suggesting this is final, but it's something that's worth feedback. We can go to always have 2 rounds, even with small groups like this, if the top 2 positions, levels 5 and 6, promote to the next round, and then they can self-sort up higher. That would give a little bit more focus. You always have 2 rounds, and it just depends on whether you take the top 5, 6, or just the top 6 pace is the only thing that changes for determining the second round. And that would allow the most valued contributors to come together and reach a little bit more focused consensus than what we have now, where the first group, there's a lot of random noise in the measurements. But if you take the top 5 and 6 slots of all those and you put all those people in a room, you're going to filter through some of the noise and actually rank the most important projects and whatnot. But there's lots of things we still need to model and consider there, but I wanted to throw that out there. I also want to acknowledge the team that's working on simulating the mathematics of fractal governance. The papers that were published on Hive really got me thinking about how do we measure success? How do we mathematically model what's going on? And so that really inspired some of my thinking this week. So I want to thank that team. And on that front, as we're trying to model this mathematically, it's critical that we remember that the measure is not the destination of where we get to. That's the end justifying the means. The question that needs to be judged is, given everyone's opinions, how effective is it at integrating it into a consensus direction without judging that direction? That's where we look at Pomelo, where people go pulling in different directions. We look at, say, Hive as an example, where everyone's voting, and all that cumulative voting is pulling the community in different directions, but it's largely guided by the largest whales. And then you can look at how traditional democracies work, and you have politicians. So the entire population has a choice, direction A or direction B. But direction A or B is not really a choice. It's what politicians say. Once you elect them, which direction do you go? The direction that no one actually chose, but the politician wants to go. So, modeling it, I've been putting some diagrams together that show we are here, and some people want to go here, some people want to go here. So you can kind of create arrows showing the directionality that everyone wants to go. And then where do you end up, and how much focus, right? What's the magnitude of common effort that can be directed with the maximum consent to the direction. And perhaps more importantly, the other metric is the ability of the community to change direction. If you take something like the United States, you can change direction every 4 years or every 2 years, partially, depending on what's going on. But only to the extent that the political parties actually give you real choice. So those are some of the things I've been thinking about from modeling this mathematically is, well, what is the measure of success? Identifying, first of all, that no system is perfect. So the goal is not to spend 100% of the money on the quote right thing. We already know that our measurements are imperfect, both individually and collectively, but it's to minimize the waste relative to the productive work, minimize the amount of self-canceling effort. And there's a reason why that's important. And I apologize for the rambling here, but I've been thinking a lot about public goods, how we provide public goods, the fact that in many ways, the benefits of decentralization, which includes the independence of the people, right, is a public good. It's very, very difficult to profit from decentralization. In fact, centralization is the only way in which you can actually profit in the free market, because you have the ability to exclude, which means you have the ability to charge a price. But if things are decentralized, you can't charge people a price for providing decentralization. That's a common good. So what do blockchains do? We subsidize decentralization with inflation. And we have to subsidize all public goods with inflation. So everyone who chooses to be part of a community or a country, they're paying taxes, they're paying for the public goods or the services that the community is producing one way or another. And they're getting some amount of value out of it. So if you want to compare different organisms, I can be part of this country with this government structure or this one with this other governance structure. You can say, what's the tax rate relative to the value I'm getting? How much does it cost for me to get my life, liberty, and property secured under, say, the United States versus under a DAO that's using whatever processes that we have? How much waste is there in government spending, and what can people do to prevent it? The most profitable, in a purely voluntary society where anyone can choose to come and go from any particular DAO, the ones that win are going to be the ones that are most cost effective. They provide the most public goods for the lowest tax rate, which means that they have to be as efficient as possible with their inflation. So if you have some funding system like Pomelo that's funding things that are mutually exclusive, that might not be a very efficient tax strategy. If you've got a system that's captured by a incumbent that is taking a lot of graft off for their personal benefit, going one direction, they're spending it on worthless projects that aren't actually valued by everyone, well, that's not going to be as profitable to contribute to as others. And so that's the measure that I'm advocating that we need to look at, is what is the, from a community's perspective, from an individual's perspective, the ratio between the public good that they're receiving from a community and the cost in the form of inflation and or taxation that they're paying to be part of the community. And then realizing that blockchains are more of a club good than a public good, because we have the ability to exclude, which means if someone's detracting from the direction we want to go, we need to exclude them so that they're not creating drag. And likewise, the community's ability to exclude is the mirror of the individual's ability to leave. That impacts the overall profitability of a particular boat. If you're on a boat of people rowing in the same direction, it's going to be a very efficient boat. You're going to really enjoy it, and you can get a lot of people on there. And so, yeah, it's now 11 o'clock. That was my early spiel. So I'll take any questions. Gregory?
I'd like to say that it becomes clearer and of benefit to all to choose wisely. choose the fractal you want to join wisely, make good choices with regards to what team you want to join, understand the values of your team, understand the values of your fractal, and if they don't align with you, find one that does. Now, granted, this is a trial, this is what we're learning, but by having this Genesis fractal, by us collaborating together, by us practicing fractal democracy, all this becomes clear and more apparent. And we're grateful for all your feedback. Thank you.
Yep. The public good that we're producing is experience and knowledge, both of which are free and hard to monetize once created because everyone can benefit from this learning. And so that's what we're all here collaboratively producing is experience and knowledge as we learn how to govern not just our group, but all DAOs. The entire industry is focused on Web3 technologies and blockchain decentralization and using technology to solve our problems. But there's a fundamental problem with relying on technology, particularly in light of the fact that decentralization or the value of decentralization is a public or a club good. It's that things tend to centralize as people seek profit. Economies of scale will lead to centralization. So when I look at something like the graph, which is an effort to decentralize the indexing and availability of API nodes for applications on Ethereum, they're trying to create a marketplace where anyone can set up a node, stake some tokens, and then index some subset of the blockchain and answer queries. And they'll get paid queries, they'll get paid in the form of fees. The idea is that decentralizes the market. You've created a competitive market in which people can provide these API indexing services. The failure mode of this is all services are identical. So from a consumer's perspective, you don't care which API provides you the answer because they're going to give you the right answer, or they're going to have some penalty, or you're going to query two of them. And so you go to the one that's the cheapest. Well, there's a fixed cost to running a node or doing the indexing, regardless of how many queries you answer, which means the biggest service can offer the cheapest queries. And you're going to end up with one or two services that are more competitive than any startup could possibly be. You can't just spin up a node and start making money because the big guys are so much more efficient, right? They've got one person that can manage a fleet of servers instead of you having to manage your server and so forth. They've got the connections, and then eventually, because of their position, they can start customizing and adding custom features that make them more desirable and basically co-opting the standard. And end result being economies of scale will centralize. Also, all this blockchain technology that we're building, if it's a public infrastructure, is easy for the government to track down. Bitcoin nodes, well, in order for me to connect to the Bitcoin network, I need a public IP of some node I can connect to, and that node's going to give me the IPs of all the other nodes on the network. It is not a secret. And all Web3 technologies is based on freedom of speech, freedom of association, so on and so forth. So this technology that we're relying on to decentralize is actually dependent upon governments permitting these things. If they were to outlaw them or partially outlaw them or frustrate them or tax them, there's all kinds of things they can do, especially given what we've seen that they will do during COVID. Technology cannot escape social pressure. And the proof of this is gold. Gold is a technology for creating a currency that can't be printed at will. It was almost ubiquitous money for a while. And through government and social engineering and propaganda, they were able to remove gold. So social collaboration and consensus is more powerful than any technology. And if we don't solve the problem that we're solving here with fractally, then the DAOs and token-weighted DPoS-based systems, the direct democracy-based systems, they're going to end up in the exact same thing, just on technology. They're not actually going to decentralize things at scale. They might start out decentralized, like Bitcoin started out decentralized, but that's an initial condition, not an end state. Gold was decentralized, got centralized into banks, then got removed from money so they could print it. The exact same process can happen if we don't solve the governance problem. So what we are doing here with fractally is attempting to solve the hardest problem humanity faces. This is the challenge of cooperating for mutual benefit without losing our sovereignty in the process. And that is a huge endeavor. And if we're going to build decentralized blockchains and smart contract platforms, they need a governance solution. And that governance solution had better be something better than the governance solutions that exist today, or market forces will come in and centralize it. The idea of an open entry system like Bitcoin, anyone can join and you can't exclude anybody. Well, that just leads to free market centralization. The only way that you can provide the club good or public good of decentralization is if we all collectively agree to subsidize it, which means because decentralization implies redundancy. It implies being less efficient than the most efficient possible, because the most efficient possible is complete centralization. And everyone has incentive to defect. If you can get cheaper prices, you go for the cheaper prices, even if it means putting the rest of the community, even if it means sacrificing the decentralization that would give you options in who you're buying things from. And that's just the nature of the prisoner's dilemma we are in the market. And that's what makes that makes decentralization and independence a public good or a club good that we have to collectively say that we value, and then collectively hold each other accountable to valuing it in order to prevent things succumbing to centralized control. And the problem with centralized control is you get monopolies, right? Monopoly power in, software, in internet search, in government, in medicine, and everywhere where there's monopoly, there's a loss of freedom, and prices actually end up higher than they would be under competition. It's just, in the name of getting things cheap, you enable a monopoly to come and be formed, and then it's actually more expensive than decentralization, but it's the trap we fall into, just like the prisoner's dilemma. And so that's the significance of what we're trying to solve here. And that's why we're doing these experiments. That's why we're building technology to help automate it, but realizing that the open source software technology we're producing, there's nothing proprietary about the decentralizing aspects of this, which means it's a public good. It's almost a charity that, unless we all agree to recognize it and compensate those who help him build and spread it, which is everyone here, it's not going to be produced by for-profit seeking entities. And if they are overtly for-profit, that means they've got some point of centralization or control that allows them to extract that profit reliably. So that's, yeah. We got 5 minutes for any other questions before we break out into the rooms.
Questions, anyone?
Andrew.
So I'm curious, are we going to try and go for the two separate meetings, like you mentioned, getting the rank or level 5 and 6?
And not this week.
Okay.
I just introduced that concept in the pre-meeting, and there should be a written description of how and why that will work. We should use a process to reach consensus that that's the direction we want to go before we just change the rules on how we're allocating respect. Because if we go to 2 levels, that's going to change the distribution of respect going forward. So that's something that I think should probably take a little bit more time to percolate. We should have a very clear, concise understanding of what the rules are going to be, what the transition is going to be, the exact date it's going to occur on, and why that approach makes sense, with a thorough understanding of the potential pitfalls of that particular approach. So for those of you who just signed on, I suggested trying to make these small meetings work just like a larger community. A larger community would have 2 levels. And one way that we can do 2 levels is to take slots, levels 5 and 6, and promote them to a second round of consensus, which will help us get a little bit more focused in where we're going and what we're funding as a group, instead of the initial group, which is kind of random, is not necessarily as focused as we could potentially be as a group. But that's the idea. I tend to have a blog post that outlines those types of concepts. And I'm interested in hearing what you all have to say via blog posts and the like on gofractally.com.
The only concern I have is just that it seems kind of naturally set up so that smaller fractals do not generate as many respect tokens as larger fractals, and that seems like a beneficial thing. And this does not seem quite, like, just having 2 rounds does not seem quite at the level where it's going to sort of mess with the data, but just a consideration.
Yeah. Thanks. Any other questions?
All right. In a few minutes, we're going to go into our breakout rooms, and I've posted some things in the chat, including a reminder about what we're doing, the main thing we're doing in the breakout rooms. We only have a certain amount of time to reach consensus, so I would suggest kind of prioritizing that process and then have, external discussions after that. The faster that you achieve consensus, the more time you have to chat and bond and that kind of stuff. Also, let's remember to prioritize any of the new people that we have. If it's their first meeting or like second or third meeting, just make sure that they know what's going on and that they're having a good experience and that they want to come back next week. Lenny.
Yeah, I saw in the chat a little bit talks about not voting and similar. Of course, we are not voting, but we are, so to say, indicating possibly getting involved what rank we feel we should have. Should we refrain from that? Has there been a discussion on it, or is it just chat for now?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand the question.
Yeah, no, it's something about not voting on ourselves, similar, and there hasn't been any decision there or anything as far as.
Well, since it's not really voting, you're advocating for yourself. And I think you need to be able to advocate for yourself. And it's valuable for each person to reflect deeply on what am I contributing relative to other people. Because if you're not honest and you don't speak up for yourself, then you could be left feeling like people aren't recognizing you because you're not willing to recognize yourself. So this is a discussion. It's not a voting. I think you should be able to express where you think your contributions are relative to other people's contributions so that people know, hey, that's what you're thinking. And they can factor that in and or share with you why they don't value your contributions as much as you value your own contributions. And that's learning experience for everyone. So yes, please, this is a discussion to reach consensus on what we value. And this should be simultaneously informing you on the type of things you should be doing because of what other people want. So that's my opinion on the matter. Jorge? It's actually time to break out. We'll take other questions after we get back.
Yeah, it's time to break out. Okay.
The rooms are open. Everyone have fun.
Hello.
Hey, nice to meet you guys.
Hey, everyone. Good to see you.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Dan.
I don't have a microphone. There may be a lot of echo. If you can just tell me on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 is the best sound you ever heard, how you hear me, please.
8.
It's like a 9 or
Yeah,
something.
8.
It's pretty good.
You're fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's almost the best sound I've ever heard. But I've also listened to Mozart and the Beatles a few times too. So, um, by the way, I'm also recording right now and planning to share on social media and stuff at some point.
Thanks for letting us know that.
Yep.
It's kind of crazy to find myself on social media without having been told that. So I appreciate you saying it.
Okay, sounds good. You're welcome. I haven't been sharing it very publicly so far, but I feel like it's just good to have these recorded. I've just been sharing within the group, kind of unlisted, and eventually, when stuff comes up that's really helpful to share, then I think it's helpful to have it.
It's gonna blow up. We're gonna be famous. Wow.
Right. And then there's going to be T-shirts about us everywhere.
There you go. So who wants to start?
I'll start by offering timekeeping services, meaning that we only have 25 minutes. So I'm allowed to, I'm offering services to let whoever speaks with a timeline.
I
English
think
is
we
not my
actually
first
have until the top of the hour, unless something has changed from last week. What does everybody else think about that?
Yeah, it should be
think
45
so.
minutes to top of the hour. I think.
45
Yeah.
minutes. Yeah. So
Okay. So yeah, please go ahead and do the timekeeping that's useful to keep us on track. We should have like an idea of what we're going to do here. So what I hear usually, and I'm really interested in feedback about this, is 2 to 3 minutes per person to introduce yourself briefly and then say what your contributions were for the week. Given that there's 6 of us doing that, that would be somewhere between 12 and 18 minutes. So does that sound about right for getting through that part, and then the rest is about reaching consensus? Or does anybody have different opinions about that?
I think that works. I think 2 to 3 minutes is on the shorter end for talking about contributions and introductions. I think maybe up to 4 would probably work. If you calculate, I guess 6 of us.
Yeah, we can't get Dan's all contributions all done in 4.
No, that's
2 minutes.
exactly. That's never gonna happen. So yeah, I think if we go, let's say maximum 4 minutes, that would be
Okay.
about 25 minutes for all of our, at the upper end, it would be maximum 25 minutes for all of our contributions, introductions. And it would still give us, 20 minutes to talk about consensus, which I think would work.
That sounds good. So I think we should aim for somewhere closer to 20 minutes, but 20.
I agree.
Yeah. All right, cool. So who was it? Daniel that was going to take
Yes.
care of that?
Yeah,
Awesome.
but
You
I
got
was
that?
looking for a pen, so I missed the agenda. Can you summarize someone?
Yeah.
So we'll know
So
how
for
to-
the next 20 to 24 minutes, so somewhere between 40 after the hour and 45 after the hour, we want to be done introducing ourselves and sharing about the contributions we've made this week. And then the rest of it will be coming to consensus on the ordering of those contributions as valuable to the community.
So each has intro for how many minutes?
3 to 4, not too specific, but 3 to 4.
Okay, I'll put 4, and instead of telling it's 4 minutes, I will just show my
Great.
my timer. So
Great. We're not too picky about staying directly on that. We can sort of move around, but it's good to have somebody paying attention to it. Daniel, do you have a Hive username so that we can post the consensus with your Hive username in it? Awesome. Thank you. All right. I'm talking. I'll just keep talking and go so that we
Sounds
can get
good.
this moving. My name's Jason Jenkins. I'm a retired system administrator for a research company in California in Silicon Valley. And I took on this project because a friend of mine has has invited me here, and it's really interesting to me. Like I actually don't live in the United States anymore because I'm not so happy with a lot of things that are going on there and the direction I see them going. So the idea of fractal democracy to me is super interesting. I currently live in Chile in South America, on the western coast of South America, and I love it here. It's beautiful. I live in almost perfect weather all the time. It's winter right now, which means it's 60 degrees and cloudy. So I love it. Um, and my Spanish is getting better daily. It still needs some improvement though. So yeah, so what I've been doing, like previous contributions, let me just write this or copy this stuff in here. The previous contributions I've been doing is I wrote a program to take the text of the Hive user page, and it turns it into something that Joshua and Gregory can use to build build their report of what people's contributions were ranked at for the last week, so that they can assign the respect to it. I'll show you an extreme version of what shows up. Which one is it? Which is the extreme version? I got two here. Oh no, I don't even. So this is a moderate version of what the consensus reports look like. And that's a little bit difficult to get a sense of who voted for what or who ranked who where. It gets even worse when, can I do that again, please? Yeah, there we go. When people start posting other stuff and bots start posting on the page, it starts to get really crazy, and you get things like the second image. So in the second image, you can also see what my program does. It just reads the whole page, finds out what the consensus report was, and then finds out the people who agreed with that consensus report. So Joshua and Gregory can just look at that and check their math against who got rated as what. So this is a program I've been developing for the last 2 months, and I do a few hours of coding on it every week. So that's a previous contribution, but it's providing a real value each time as they get to use it to double check their results. This week, I sent in the output of the program to those two, and I also did a manual check, pardon me, which I've been doing every week to just see that my program's accurate. So they really don't have to count the consensus reports anymore because I'm giving them an automatic and a manual check. But I also added something. I'm working on a new feature that we've been discussing with Matt Langston and Joshua and Gregory and I, where we want to find out if everybody in the meeting was reported in somebody's consensus report, and if everybody in the meeting reported the consensus of their room. So I'm taking those two name lists and trying to do a bunch of comparisons and ors on them to produce something. It's not done yet, but I at least can say, who was reported in a consensus report somewhere. So I need to do a couple of more lists and then some logic to compare them. But thanks, got it. But I put in a few hours this week coding and moved myself pretty far forward on there. Last week, I ranked 5, the second from the top. I don't know if my language is accurate there, but I was second from the top. And then I didn't invite anybody this week. So that's everything for me. And I'll nominate Toby to go next.
Hey, 4 minutes on the spot.
All right, I'll try to be as respectful with the time. So hey guys, I think the only person that I've met here is Dan. For the others, first time in the call. So just quickly, my background: I am professionally a medical doctor, but I'm also an entrepreneur. So I don't actually work as a medical doctor anymore. I started a business a couple of years ago that predicts the effects of climate change on different financial assets and companies. I just sold that business a few months ago to Morningstar, so an American financial firm, and now I work for Morningstar. So that's kind of, I guess, on the professional side. In terms of Fractally, my contribution is mainly through our team. So our team is called Fractally in Orbit. Our objective is to provide jurisdictional flexibility and agility to Fractally going forward. So one of the biggest problems with crypto in general, similar to what Dan was talking about at the beginning of our meeting, is that projects are very much at the mercy of governments and regulators who can, decide that a project can no longer exist because it's infringing on certain laws in certain areas and so on. So our objective is really to host Fractally in a way that it will be able to be flexible and not, at risk from different types of regulations. And one way we're going to be doing that is we're going to be hosting Fractally in space. So we've set up, a partnership with Sovereign Skies, which is a project that's launching satellites for hosting block producing and nodes in space. So we're working on that. This week we had a meeting, and I was, decided as team leader for our team for Fractally in Orbit. So what I worked on this week is, three main points. First of all is the legal structure behind our team. So we're setting up currently a strategic alliance contract, we call it. So it's kind of a contract between team members. It doesn't have a clear legal structure yet, but gives us a little bit of a framework as to how we're going to work together. The other thing is working on our vision as well. So our vision is, yes, we want Fractally to be jurisdictionally agile, and we want to be able to be hosted in space and hosted in a way that will be protected from regulations. But we also want to be able to develop, let's say, business applications or toolkits so Fractally can grow within the ecosystem more quickly and for more easy for business users to do that. So I worked on kind of that vision and some ideas as to how we can do that. And also one thing that we found, this week is what we call a node meister. Just fun. It's kind of informal name to say somebody who's responsible for software and technical software and hardware requirements for our nodes. So that's something that we have somebody now responsible for that, and we're just kind of waiting for more information from the Fractally team and from Dan as to how exactly what latency requirements are and how we're going to be able to start that hosting process with Sovereign Skies. I think that's about it. I'll stop there. So, thanks, guys.
3 minutes, so someone will have extra time.
All right. Maybe I'll nominate Mark. Want to go for it?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. It was great listening to you and meeting you for the first time, really. So being limited to 4 minutes, I think I thought I would have a small amount of just general commentary about what we're doing. That is standing up this alpha or pre-alpha Fractally. So it's really great to see 2 new faces in here. So Toby and Daniel. Yeah, and what a surprise, Toby, that you're the lead for Fractally in Orbit. A lovely surprise. Thank you. So flows a bit into an introduction on my side, which would be I'm a lead for a Fractally team as well, which is the ETF, or the EOS Translation Foundation. So standing that up, that team up of yours, I can really relate with. And that flows into what we did this week, which is standing up. And I put a photo in the chat. If you guys want to follow along, it's probably about 10 minutes ago. But I've been just going down that list, that tedious list, and it seems to be working pretty well. But Pomelo 3 was probably the strongest item to attend to as a contribution to Fractally. That photo that I put in the chat has at the bottom a mission of the ETF to increase the bandwidth across language speaking groups. That's that's a lot of reach there because everyone can relate with this. And it turns out we're discovering how far that reach kind of goes. And it's a delightful surprise around each corner. There's a lot of good opportunity. But as our team purpose, we're supporting the Fractally platform and testing it and using it at the same time. And so that photo that I put in the chat would have the mission and the actual purpose that ties into how we really are contributing to Fractally, because we want to kind of push it around and see what it's made of and report and repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. So when Toby speaks of the litigious or the legality side of a team, we are too. And when we think of a pomelo pitch that we have moved into to put us on a pomelo track, pomelo being a crowdfunding platform for EOS, well, we're thinking about that. And right now we're exercising, how are we going to define our team? How would we define our goals? We're learning things like simple, just getting on a pomelo track, for example, just putting our name out there, for example, just wanting to create accountability machine function within a group of people. So these are all things that are extremely valuable that so when we define a pomelo pitch, it's going to be very interesting to watch things emerge from almost like speaking to what we've already done, because we don't really want to get on the hook for, we're going to do all this stuff either. Okay, 3:36, 25 seconds. So that pomelo 3 was planning is now in a crawl phase. It was woke up to we want to move on this now, and we did. And now we have a team. We have a lead for pomelo 3, Dwayne Philippi, great guy, tons of experience, and he's the lead for our pomelo 3 piece. And we're going to have a pomelo 3 entry point as the ETF at the end of this month in preparation and launch. Thank you.
That was great. I feel like you had more to say. Maybe at the end.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Can you nominate somebody to go next now?
Sure, Eric.
Hello, people. I am also enjoyed hearing Toby's in the sky idea. That's really cool. And Jason, that's really cool. I imagine moving to Chile myself with my family, but through a long term of various decisions, we ended up in Tbilisi, Georgia, Republic of Georgia. I run a pizza shop, which was just started to do something good for the city that I live in and the country that I live in. And so when I saw Joshua's prompt for the three questions, what have you done to build the technology, raise awareness, and grow adoption of fractal governance? That's the reason I'm here. Came as an investor through ES, but so I invited my leadership team, which is 4 plus my wife, who's a co-founder, and I'm trying to explain this to them, but none of them have crypto background. None of them understand blockchain. None of them have any kind of anarchist tendencies. And so getting them to come on board without any kind of MVP type solution is quite difficult. So when I read the More Equal Animals, I thought about trying the cards, where you deal out the cards and you try the fractal process that way, where you send to the next level the person that could best represent that group. And I'm hopeful because I'm getting some feedback now that we want to do this to reward something, but they don't quite understand about the process. And I think Dan's fireside chat, or whatever you want to call it, just now it's just again like the power of this process. One of the hardest things that we have 4 stores, about 80 some people, and there's been a lot of problems just to get to the point where we're at. But the biggest problem that I see going forward when I'm not able to lead is governance. And how does the vision continue? How does it not get captured? And I had no idea about those things when I started this. And so this is just in time kind of stuff for us. And I'm quite excited about how we could at some point implement this. If you want to find us or follow us on social, I'll drop the name. And at some point, I'm hoping to introduce this. I'm thinking we built the business on core values, and so profit and those other things are just results of doing, just focusing on the core values that we have. And I think what I'm kind of getting my head around is rewarding, respecting those that hit on the core values, whatever that means. So it could be from a cashier to a pizza maker to a driver. And so the big leap for me the last couple of weeks has been thinking about Ronnie's, which is named after our fathers. I still have time. Is to become an IT and governance company as opposed to just a pizza company. So Toby's presentation was interesting, and that's it. I ranked 4 last time. I'm done.
That was
You want
great,
to
Eric.
nominate somebody for next?
Daniel, timekeeper. Sorry, Dan.
All right, so I'm timing
good.
myself. My name is Daniel Gauthier. I was lacking words here. English is not my first language, but I'm sure you can understand me well. I was recruited by Pascal of PCO. So I live in Montreal, Canada, and I'm new.
So do I.
So I'm new to the blockchain. I'm kind of a newbie, and my contribution so far to Fractally has been to learn how to have my own hashtag, my own username, interconnected through Hive, and offered video production services to the community for those among you who may need quality professional recording in 4K through the web with adding images, overlap, and music, and recording in WAVE as opposed to MP3. And so far, no one has come up and say, well, we could use that for the community to do X, Y, Z. In short, that is my contribution to the group. And I really like so far the thoughts, the excuse me, the thinking behind this community, forming small groups and making Fractally move forward, and discovering also new friends. So I'm very grateful to be here today. And that is what I have to offer for this group today. Now, since I have a minute and a half left, I'll speak a little more about myself. I learned how to create one URL that is a foo token, meaning that it has no value other than the value of being out there. And my plan between now and the end of this year is to launch my own website with a new domain name that I'm building, which is named Satoshi.yoga. So I'm a yoga teacher. I love technology, and I'm of service in regards to reaching new people. I'm a customer service representative in real life, and that's about it. You can see what I've done so far through Satoshi.yoga, and eventually I will also put in forward publicly view the Fractally group so that I can finalize my registration with Fractally with the last step of inviting other people to join this group. Thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you very much, Daniel, for joining us, and welcome. And sounds awesome. And thank you, everybody, for all of the great contributions as well, of course, too. Should I get into mine now? Would anybody like to respond any more?
I'd just like to say that Daniel's accent in the English language is really darn good for somebody who has that as a second language. I aspire to that in Spanish.
Wow, si quieres practicar tu castellano, yo puedo ayudarte también.
Ah, muy bien, gracias, amigo.
Okay, I guess I'll go now. I was trying to figure out how to say something in Spanish to transition it, but I can only remember very little. So, ciao. um, okay, I guess I'll go now. Sounds good. Cool.
Do
Go
it.
for it.
Sounds great. So yeah, thank you everybody for the great contributions, and I'll try to go pretty quickly. So I am Dan Singjoy. For people who don't know, I think everybody knows except for Daniel. So it's nice to meet you, Daniel. And yep, this is a presentation about what I'm doing to help fractally and so forth. I think last week I was ranked 6, although I might have been 5. I'm not sure. Or I'm not, I don't remember exactly. So there's a few different things I've been working on a lot this week. For the past few weeks, I've been playing a big role in helping to start the Eden Fractal, which you can check out at edenfractal.com. So this week, I put out a tweet from the Eden Fractal Twitter account showing that the EOS and Eden Respect has been distributed to all participants in the second Eden Fractal event, and inviting everyone to join us Wednesday at 13 UTC to earn EOS, Respect, and NFTs by helping Eden on EOS with the Fractally process. So it was an awesome event. There's 18 participants, and we gave out 100 EOS that I'm donating 100 per week with Eden creators, and there's also some other people who have expressed that they'll donate too. I retweeted some tweets from some people who help it, and then it got some decent impressions and stuff like that to help spread Fractally and fractal governance and so forth. I also added another tweet with just like a cool visual to help promote it, and that also got some good engagement. I recorded the call and I posted it just like the unlisted in the Eden Discord, so people can watch it there. And then I host the EOS Hot Sauce, so I briefly just featured it for like 10 seconds and invited everybody to join during the hot sauce. And then I also think that's a repeat slide. And then in addition, I also joined the first first Alien Worlds Fractal. So that's why there was a duplicate slide, because while I was at the Eden Fractal meeting, I was speaking with Dwayne, who Mark was talking about, and Dwayne was talking about how he's planning to start an Alien Worlds Fractal. So I checked out Dwayne's posts on Go Fractally, and I was really impressed. I just liked everything and supported everything and read everything. I created a Wax account so I could participate and just read everything that he was doing. And then he posted, it was also very successful. There was 10 people who attended, and he posted a cool summary there. I also recorded that and just put it unlisted. And then during this, I also gave a presentation about Fractally and why I think it's really helpful for Alien Worlds. Alien Worlds, if people aren't familiar, it's a game. I believe it's the biggest blockchain game in the world. There's 150,000 daily players where people can go on missions and earn NFTs and do worlds and stuff like that. So I did some research into this because I think this could be a great way to grow Fractally, and it could be really helpful for Fractally to tap into this market, and people could show the cool NFTs they're building in the worlds and whatnot. So there's some stats about how big Alien Worlds is. So I was really grateful for Dwayne for setting that up, and I'm planning to participate every week to help this grow. It's incredibly exciting. And then also I participated in Helios Twitter Spaces, where we talked about Eden and Eden Fractal and Fractally quite a bit. Helios is a Web3 incubator and investment firm working with EOS.io. Thank you very much, Daniel. And so we had a great conversation. I spoke for, probably 15, 20 minutes promoting fractal governance and why I think it's really helpful, and Eden Fractal and stuff, inviting everybody to join. And then I also just read and retweeted the recent post from Fractally. I thought that was really good. And then also just kept up and read all the chats and participated. There's a lot of behind the scenes thing I was doing too with Eden Fractal and just messaging people, but this is kind of the public stuff of just reading everybody's posts and liking it and supporting it and stuff like that. So that's that, and I hope you all enjoyed, and thank you very much. And right now I see your world clock, so thank you.
That's great, Dan. You have too many contributions. That's possible.
Well,
I'm really impressed with the way you had it organized and managed to get that much information in 4 minutes, though. That was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I was blowing Dan up in the chat with direct messages saying, here's what this beautiful presentation looks like. It was done perfect. It turned out I just moved my stuff around and I was like, wow, I can really absorb all that.
Cool. Well, yeah, thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And yeah, I appreciate the kind words. And yeah, I think that this is a great way of doing it for Fractally in general. You know, if other people are interested. So I've been working on making like a tutorial to show how to do it. I haven't had a chance to finish it yet, but I imagine like if more people did this and showed their work, then that'd be probably really helpful for the community. And I'm happy to do as much as I can to help the community, help Fractally.
Yeah, that'd be great actually, Dan. When you publish that tutorial, I'll be looking forward to seeing it for sure.
Okay.
I think it'll help a lot.
Cool. Sounds good. I'll try to remember to tag you, or I'll definitely post in like the Fractally groups and stuff like that, so you'll be able to see it.
Yeah, and if you think of me, please.
Okay, sounds
Yes,
good.
I'll chase it down eventually, but thank you. Please feel free to tag me.
Okay, sounds great. I'll write a note to tag you both.
I'll take you out for pizza when you do that.
sounds good, Eric. Thank you. And I've heard your pizza is very good too, so I'm looking forward to it.
Look, it's all on the website.
What's that? Oh yeah, definitely. And also, Eric didn't mention it too, but Eric's pizza company has a TikTok account that has like many millions of viewers. There's one video that got 250 million views, if I'm correct. So it's being quite widely promoted with the pizza and stuff like that. So yeah,
blew up. Yeah, I'm excited about leveraging. We just chose that business model as something that's strategic, that would multiply by number and not by size, and so it's perfect for Fractally. And I just get excited about thinking about merging those two ideas.
I'd love, Eric, to have a call like where maybe we could talk about the challenges that you're having in trying to implement, Fractally, fractal bonuses, fractal governance, because I feel like somebody like you that's actually doing it in real life.
I'm not yet.
Not yet. Okay, just thinking about it.
Just to be clear, no, I'm pushing it, but the pushback is those that don't have any crypto or blockchain.
Knowledge or
the uptake is slow, and the tools aren't really there yet, to be honest.
Exactly. Yeah.
I have a question for those who have definitely more experience than I am. Do you find it a problem for you to get all the tools that are needed in order to be at the same level than others? Meaning that last week I wanted to learn how to create an account, because it was done so fast with Doug, that I wanted, because I met him afterwards on a one-to-one basis, and I wanted to learn how to create an account so that I can teach friends that I want to enroll how to create their account through Ives. And I was not able to gain enough interest for him to take the time and show me. This is an example among many other examples, because the learning curve is still pretty steep for me. Anyone has any comments on this? Do we have time for
I got
that?
3 comments on that. One, don't be too hard on yourself. This stuff isn't simple. So it's going to take time sometimes, and give yourself a break about that. 2, the way you've started to work on it is really good. You want to get involved with other people who have vastly more experience than you and a decent ability to translate that experience to other people. And the people you're talking to are good for that. Matt Langston is another one in this community who's good at onboarding people. So you might want to get in touch with him. But yeah, get aligned with people who just know more than you, so that you can learn from their experience and they can correct your being off course. And the third one I totally forgot, sorry. But those 2 are useful.
And you see the second one, Matt Lens is someone?
Matt Langston.
Matt, okay.
I think he's on the call today. You'll see him when we go back to the main group.
Yeah. Don't worry about it too much. Keep doing what you're doing, and talk to those cats. And
another question that I have that brings attention on the process of voting. Another observation that I noticed is that when we have exchanged with other members into Fractally, how do you choose to be friend with and collaborate a little bit deeper meaning that you just can't be friends and adopt everybody's project. And how do you choose those next steps?
I just do what calls to me, which often gets me in over my head, but that's it. That's what I do. Hey, we only got about 10 minutes left and we still need to reach consensus on everybody's contributions. So let's nail that and then we can come back to that question because I'm sure people have other things they could say about it that'd be useful to everybody, not just you.
Great idea.
Let me make a suggestion about this, and I'm not attached to this at all, but what I've seen work really well is if instead of having a discussion, we all just post the person we think that contributed most or the contribution that we think was most valuable or the first 2 or 3 in a row, and then just see if we all agree on them. And then if not, we sort of look at what's the difference. But if we post 1 or 2 or 3 of the top ones all at the same time, it cuts down the discussion and it cuts down the bias, and it seems to work pretty well for me. Does anybody have any better ideas besides that?
I think that's great. Let's do one at a time just because I'm not sure about the order in my mind yet. So I think it's easier to go one by one. That works.
I'm happy to do that.
Sounds
Does anybody have a better way to do this?
I say
We're
one.
talking about rapid fire, right? We just type in level number 6.
I didn't hear what Mark said. Mark, what'd you say?
I'm in a 3, 2, 1.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, I'm ready to do the top one.
Okay.
Okay, so level number 6, top rank. 2, 1.
Wow, there is almost no agreement there about anything.
I see only 3 so far.
3 out of 6 people have posted.
Have 3 people not posted it?
So it seems like you all
Sorry.
can't hear me.
What's that?
I've only seen 3 out of 6 people that have posted.
Same
So
here.
it sounds like people can't hear me, but it also sounds like the 3, 2, 1 was not long enough.
I was able to hear you,
Yeah.
Mark. I don't know if others were, but there's still 2
I
people who haven't
realized
voted yet.
That I sent mine in intentionally direct message, so I switched that, changed that.
Oh, okay. And Toby, I don't think voted, as well as somebody else. Jason, maybe?
Oh, I sent mine direct message also. My
Okay.
bad.
I thought I said something, but I clearly did not. I apologize.
Okay, my vote was Dan, so I sent it to.
Okay.
Okay. So now we have 6 in, I think, and Toby
Looks
has
like
2,
Dan-
I have 3, and Jason has 1. So we don't have.
All right, I'm going to
consensus
take
yet.
myself out of the running for position 1. I appreciate what you said, Daniel, but I think there's at least one person who did better, who did more to serve the community this week. So I request that I'm not ranked 6.
Well, I think I had a good week, but I think Dan did more based on all the points. So I would defer that to Dan for rank 6. Personally,
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
All right, that puts Dan in 6, I think, for everybody.
That's okay with me. I was also just going to say, too, one of the reasons why I voted for Toby or ranked Toby's contributions at 6 was because I think Toby brings a huge amount of value with both starting the team and then also working at it every week and figuring out all these behind the scene details, and then the idea about providing the infrastructure resiliency with the outer space is really helpful, and then also taking into account total respect throughout the time. I've been in all the meetings and I have a decent amount of respect from that. So I'm happy to be 6 if you think that's best, but I'd also be happy to rank Toby 6 as well.
So if anybody disagrees with Dan as number 6, then speak up.
I think we give it to Dan. So that's all I
Yeah,
got.
yeah, we got Dan.
Good there.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
All right, well, let's do basically the same thing for the next one.
Sure, but maybe this time we'll try to all do it at the same time, though.
Yeah.
More smoothly.
Yeah, I'm actually
And no
ready
direct
this time.
messages.
Go wait for
So if nobody's not ready, we can start the countdown.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Ready?
All right. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, that's consensus. 4 out of 6 for Toby, which is 2/3. Oh, we disagree?
Yeah, well, okay, so I'm not going to disagree and say that we should change our vote, but I had a really hard time deciding between Toby and Mark on this one, and my sense was that they were doing a lot of the same types of things, but Mark seemed to have his fingers in more pies and moving more things at once. So, Mark, that's why I voted you higher than Toby on this one, but I got to say it was just like a hairline thing. So I'd actually like to hear really quickly, what's your sense of the difference between your contribution and Toby's, if there is any?
I think maybe we could parse it out with maybe hours may help. You know, how many hours did we put in? Other key elements like scheduling meetings, maybe how many meetings did you have? Because those are very difficult. So I had about probably 4 meetings, and one or two of those were big. I pushed Pomelo 3. There's a lot of stuff that is not quantitatable. So I would just say go with how you feel. At that point, just drop everything. But translation is massive. I'm so happy about what we're doing. And right now, we can just work with the averages across time and give
absolutely.
I just met Toby. I'm like, take it, you know?
Right. I got it. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So anybody, Daniel, I'll say once more, those guys had to schedule meetings with other human beings and have conversations with them. I got to sit in my wonderful living room looking at the ocean writing code. They worked harder than I did this week and produced more. So.
I'm still new at the process, and of course, let's vote for the next one. I agree with the choice of.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Good.
And by the way,
so
we only have 3 minutes left to make 4 choices, so we should be expedient about
let's
it.
put all of them in there if you can. Can anybody not rank all the last 4 contributions?
I would say it's easiest to do one by one, just do it quickly, because I feel like that'll be faster and easier.
Okay, let's hit it then, one by one quickly.
All right, if anybody's not ready, please speak up. Otherwise, we'll start the count. 3, 2, 1, post. Okay. We have 4 out of 6. Thank you so much.
That was easy.
Mark is unanimous. Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
Mark, I think we were probably very close, by the way. I think it's just, you know, either way could have worked. So.
Yeah. Thank you. And looking for Jason, we can just use his name for now, but it'd be good to publish that on your name. But if you want to go on.
Did I not? I apologize. I don't have that in there.
Sure. We'll wait. We got 2 minutes and 20 seconds, I believe.
This will take less than 10 seconds. How do I change my name?
Well, don't worry about it. We'll just say Jason. If no one's not ready, we'll go start the count. You okay, Jace? Okay,
I'm ready. Dao De Jing.
3, 2, 1.
Okay. Jason
Looks
has
like
it.
Jason has 4 out of 6. So next item, we'll go to who contributed the next. So if you'd like to start now, let me know.
I'm ready.
Problem. 3, 2, 1. Looks like we have a conflict.
It looks like
3.
4 of 6 is for Eric, and then, or no, I'm confused because Dao De Jing, isn't that Jason?
That's me, yeah.
So Daniel voted for Jason again?
Can you repeat?
Yeah, Daniel, I got ranked as the 4th highest contribution already. So we're now deciding whether your contribution or Eric's contribution was higher this week.
Oh well, Eric is definitely one of my favorites, but I have to choose intuitively. I'm certainly gonna try to find you on TikTok, Eric, if you can post your URL.
Okay. All right, we got to hit this. So
If everybody disagrees with what I just put in there, Daniel, I need a Hive username if you have one. Do you have one?
He does.
Yeah, it's DAN 1 AM.
I just posted it.
All right, wait, DAN 1 AM.
Yeah.
Let me know if anybody disagrees with what I just posted.
check your spelling of your name. I don't disagree, but I would request people check the spelling of their name.
Is everybody good with that last post?
Yeah, looks
Yes.
I
good.
am.
That's fine by
Everybody
me.
thumbs up?
Yep.
Okay, great. Then the goal is to get a Hive reply to the following.
Recording in progress.
Whoops, not sure what happened there. We didn't get the time delay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shoot.
Apologies.
Well, it was right on schedule, so.
Yeah, normally we get that 60-second delay, and this for some reason this time it didn't happen. I don't know why that happened.
Send us back.
Be careful, I have put $1 after Mike Lenny. It's not to say that I want to give $, but that was a keyboard mistake. So you have a repost again. Huh? Okay.
Felix, do you have a question?
Not much a question. I kind of got cut off. But one of the things I guess I wanted to bring up was our last group. You know, Joshua did an awesome job, kind of like emceeing us through the voting process. And so I hope that was recorded on some point, someone's part, because I was thinking that would be a good room for everyone to kind of review the way we kind of, you know, it was a power room. Like we had a lot of highly valuable contributions that everyone's bringing, and the way we kind of took a step back, looked at the overall total respect that's kind of been allocated, and then used that as voting, also having newer members to encourage, to get their respect up. It was just overall, I really thought it was a cool dynamic. And I would suggest if we have that recording and we have it posted, anyone who would be interested to go check that out.
Thank you. And thank you, Joshua, for doing that. Maybe you could share some of the principles in a blog post or something, so that they could understand how you went about it. In my particular group, we had a lot of interesting situations. We had one person who was against voting for themselves and changed their mind mid-group. And then
that was me.
yes. And then we had several situations where people were voting for the other person, and that was quite common. And we had to make the choice: do we honor the person, or do we, who everyone voted for's opinion, or do we encourage them not to be so humble and to change their vote for themselves? And that's always a challenge there when the group's voting for somebody who doesn't vote for themselves.
Great experiment.
Anyway, Matt, you have a question?
Comment, feedback for you and the team, Dan. I'm noticing, so this is subjectively, I noticed this week and last week, I'm noticing more alignment. 17 weeks ago, we were all we were trying to figure out our place, and now I see a lot more alignment, and respect was doled out this week based on that alignment. And I think, again, Josh did an awesome job leading our group, and I saw past contributions that weren't valued, brought forward and discussed and valued this time. And so that's all about alignment. So it was really exciting to see, and I wanted to pass that forward.
All right, thank you so much. It's good to hear the encouraging feedback. One of the things that's important is you discuss what you value and what you'd like to see other people do. We don't normally get time to do that, and it might actually make sense to expand the meeting from 45 minutes back to an hour, just so that there's more opportunity, because it seems like come down to the wire and whatnot. But understanding what the other members of the community value, and then saying, how have you heard what they expressed, and how did that impact how you changed what you did this week to try to serve the needs that were expressed or desired from other members? In the spirit of that, I think it's fun is something that is critical for community growth, and anyone who contributes to the community having fun is something that I think would be very valuable, whether that's getting people together to play some online game, or doing meetups somewhere, or I don't know what things people find fun. Maybe it's some competition or a challenge that you give people that causes people to have fun. But that is a contribution to community that cannot be understated. And if you read the book, The Evolutionary Basis of a Good Society, Blueprint, that book highlights that when people are shipwrecked, the people that manage to have fun are more likely to survive than those who don't. And it's a critical aspect of community building. And so much of what we're doing here is that, and that's a public good. People will come and stay if they're having fun. I think that's part of what made Steam It so sticky, was it created community and people are having fun. I think a lot of people come here every week because they're having fun getting to talk to like-minded individuals about things that matter to them. But yeah, let's keep that in mind as we're going week to week to have fun and help others to have fun. All right, that's my spiel there. Shakuz.
Yes, regarding fun, two ideas. One idea is if we have more of these devices, we can actually meet and play in VR together. We can do a lot of crazy stuff there, and it's going to be physical and it's going to be fun and musical and all of that. So that's one direction. And another direction might be something like simple things like let's give a best picture right now on the screen that you're looking at. Who's got the best background?
Exactly.
Stuff like that. So if it would be in the UI, like simple things like voting and just, you know, because this type of games that also involve communicating and voting, and which will also probably require tools. So that is a great thing, and I support you in that direction. So two ideas.
I support that. Let's go ahead and make that the challenge for next week, is to see who has the most creative background for the Zoom call.
Yes, thank you. And I'd like to say something. It's not a question. It's just I started publishing audiobook, More Equal Animals, in Russian, narrated by myself, and people love it. Russians love it. They are asking, when is the next chapter? They don't want to read it. They don't have the time. It's they're in the war, but they can listen to it. So we have, and it's been in a community of, it's not just published on my website, it's being promoted in a community of over 20,000 people. So we have about 2,000 views at least, and around 300 people listen to it already. So,
wow. No wonder I'm not getting any book sales. Everyone's for free.
Well, I used your non-copyright claim, so because I opened up all my work. It's open source and it's public.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to ask you, because I have an idea. I want to publish it in Russian.
Yeah.
I published the Russian
feel free.
translation.
Publish in whatever language you like. You can keep the printed versions as long as you make the digital version free.
Yeah, well, I wanted to make digital version a little bit paid, like $5, because sometimes making it free makes it a little bit less valuable to people, because it is available for free on the website right now in Russian. But when they buy it, they feel like I donated to it, and I read it, and I do it myself. I usually buy a book, that means I'm going to read it, because if I don't buy it, I'm not going to read it. There is less chance that I'll read it.
Yes.
I'll read it.
Yeah, having the Kindle version or whatnot is also paid for.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much for all your work in translating it. Ironically enough, I listened to a chapter from my own book this week, narrated by somebody else, just to review what I said about moral hazard, which I think is a great background, Mike. That's a really good resource for people, particularly when they're traveling. Really makes it more accessible. So thank you. James, you had a question.
I actually have a request. If CryptoFit is still on, could you send or post like your Hive name in the chat or something? Because we didn't get it before the meeting ended. So
sorry about that, guys.
All right. And Jay Taylor.
So I have a just an idea or comment or thought about the sales and distribution of your book, Dan, that it's I think it's a very interesting experiment in today's marketing climate about different languages and translations, and kind of spreading the word about, obviously if someone spends hours and hours writing a book, that you should be rewarded for that. And then it comes down to the marketing of the book concept is really, I think that there's a new mechanism of user-generated marketing where someone they listen to your book and they just picked up a free copy, but then if the word of mouth spreads, it doesn't take a very large percentage of 7.5 billion people to actually continue to, especially a work that has shelf life, that you may find that free distribution of your creative work could actually turn into a viral marketing that I think it's worth us knowing about. And so I'm interested to watch. I wish we had a scientific study on book sales. And I think yours is a perfect test case about a book that's designed to influence a viral network. How does that result in a projection of charging for each copy, protecting your digital copyright versus allowing it to spread virally? I think it's an interesting economic study. And so
I sort of chose to make it free because I don't think that copyright is the best way of enforcing things, because there's just a whole lot of other problems with it. But I really value the ideas and getting the ideas spread more than I value the money from the book. So even all the money I get from the book, I'm putting back into promoting ideas and things like that. I found that so far it seems like 10 people read it for every one person who buys it. Maybe even more than that read it. People have spent more translating it to other languages than I've actually earned personally from the book. And I consider those translations of a greater contribution. I made most of the money from the NFT of the book cover I sold. That gives you an idea of the book is a tool that I think will provide a public good for everyone. And it's inspired so many people to be here. But yeah, just keep that in mind, that the book is not a big revenue generator. I promote it primarily because sometimes people like to have something physical. I read a book digitally with the ebook first, and then if I liked it, I buy the book and put it on my shelf as the trophy. That's how I do my books personally. But yeah, let's go ahead and take from Mark.
Yeah, thanks. This is real quick. A message for a fella in our room, Danielle Gauthier. I wanted to make sure he got a message that said I can be available this week to help with setting up best practices and getting acquainted with the interim tools and workflow for Fractally, Hive, and different contacts and questions. So that's for Danielle. I can see he's here. I just want to make sure that we did our best effort to say we're available. And I sent you a DM on this chat. So please feel free to reach out here on this chat or DM in Telegram. And I can walk you throughout the week in prep for next week.
Let's try to keep person-to-person communications out of the chat with 30+ people, if at all possible. In Zoom, you can do direct messages, so please pay attention to the direct messages in case someone's trying to reach you. And of course, join us on Telegram where you can reach out to people. Jorge, you have a question?
Hey everyone. Well, it's not really a question, it's a commentary. I posted initially a Hive post regarding a statistical simulation on fractal democracy, which you commented on. And indeed, I discovered this noise parameter, which is related to sincerity. And then I tried to reduce that, the influence on that parameter. And the first idea that came to me was preventing people from self-ranking, not only self-voting themselves to the top post, but self-ranking in general to the top or to the least, because it reduces the amount of information we can gather from each measurement, and this is supposed to be a measuring exercise. But then I delved deeper into that, and I noticed that self-ranking also prevents the whole system from being a fully randomized trial. A fully randomized experiment, supposedly you have to, each sampling point, in this case, each member will have a equal chance of being in your group. But when you're allowed to self-rank, that doesn't happen. In that case, your own sampling point has a probability of 100% of being always in your sampling sample. So that makes the whole thing also more difficult to model. And I'm having also reports today in my team, in my group, I'm finding recurrent reports of people saying, I didn't used to rank myself, but because everybody else was doing it, and I wasn't getting really good scores, now I have decided to do it. So it's like a noise propagation effect that could be really, really reduced if we just make clear that everybody has the right and to rank himself, no, not to rank himself, but to promote himself. But that promotion can be done before the ranking, like really saying, I think I deserve the highest spot, and these are my reasons. But during the actual ranking, the most important thing should be measuring, and that measuring is best accomplished if we prevent self-ranking.
So this came up in our group today, and the voting process that we're using is not actually voting. So you're not really, all you're really doing is disclosing information to the group to facilitate conversation. So if there is even one person who disagrees, that's an opportunity to say, why did you disagree? Does anyone want to change? In my group, we had one person or two people try to abstain. The reason they abstained is that I didn't know. And so I made the point that when you abstain, you're depriving everyone else of your unbiased judgment, not influenced by other people's rankings. And then we have a discussion afterward that you can take into consideration, well, why did other people think something else? And you can focus in on those things. So when we're submitting things, we're not voting. We're just disclosing our state of mind, our independent state of mind simultaneously, so that we can have the discussion on the merits and try to reach consensus. So it definitely should not be viewed as a binding vote where you've got 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 6. All right, move on. We don't care what the minority thinks. That's not how it's supposed to be. It should be, well, this is a close call. 2 people think this and 4 think something else. That means maybe we're not seeing something that's valued. Let's ask them why they valued one over the other. And it's particularly enlightening when the people are voting, against each other. It's like, the group voted for one and they voted for someone other than themselves. Like, well, why did you think someone else's contribution was greater than your own? Because you know your contribution better than we know your contribution. So, tell us why it is that you didn't, you valued your contribution less. And you can learn a lot when people say, look, I valued my contribution less because I know it wasn't that big. And just hearing what someone else did, I can tell you that it's more than what I've done. That is very useful information because you know perfectly what you did and you know imperfectly what other people did. And if no one's allowed to rank yourselves, you're depriving the group of the perfect knowledge that at least one person has and causing everyone to rely all votes, so to speak, to be based on imperfect information. So that's my stance there. Felix, you have a question?
Yeah. So this was kind of brought up in our Eden fractal with Jorge mentioning about like I guess noise. And I guess one of the things are solutions or possible solutions that, you know, it could be something that we could deploy on the Eden fractal and see how things go. But I'm interested to hear your feedback on how you think about this approach. But one thing is, when we randomize into a group, like to open up, given the shorter amount of time, to open up more discussion of really like who should be ranked accordingly, based off the, like, if it's tough to decide, it can be hard, like especially if everyone feels like they should be ranked higher. So I see where Jorge was coming from. So I guess what I was thinking about is what's stopping us from randomizing a week ahead of time. So when we meet in this week, we would know the group that we're meeting. And then basically when we meet though, that's where you cast the votes and come to a finalized consensus. But then you have the whole week to kind of like, in a sense, audit and also learn a little bit more about the people that's going to be in your group for that discussion. And then you get to get a little bit more involved. That was it.
Yeah, so in theory, that makes a lot of sense to have more time. What I found in practice is people RSVP, but you don't know until the day of whether or not someone's actually going to show up. So if you randomize a week ahead of time, then you're going to end up with a lot of groups that just don't have the full complement of people in the group. So I suppose you could randomize, have the meeting, and then have a week to audit. But even then, we should deal with dishonest contributions to other feedback mechanisms. The goal for each person should try to be as honest with themselves and with others as possible, to correct their mistakes, to admit what their uncertainties are. When I'm in a group, sometimes I say, like, I don't know, I can't even articulate, I'm just going with my gut on some of these things. And the gut's a funny thing, and there's information embedded in people's gut judgments. But that's the challenge with spreading it out over time. But I do think that there's probably a case to be made to go from 45 minutes to 1 hour for the meetings, just so that there's a little bit more time to discuss. It seems like the past several times it's taken slightly longer, and it's because as people are making more and more contributions, as we're getting more familiar with the process, there's a lot of learning, a lot of talking, a lot of hard choices, and hard choices take longer. And I think early on we reduced it from an hour to 45 minutes because everyone was new, and it wasn't really, the choices weren't as hard as they're getting. So that's perhaps a better compromise, is just slightly lengthen the time for consensus. Jorge?
Yeah, I like to say that one advantage of avoid self-ranking is that it removes emotion from the measurement. For example, I today saw in my group that one person was absolutely convinced that he deserved to be top post, but he didn't make it to the tops, nor to the second best, nor to the third one. So along all the process, he wasn't really thinking, well, it didn't look like he was thinking about valuing or assessing other people's contributions. He was just trying to get to the next best post that he considered himself to be deserving of. And one thing is that, and another thing is that this self-ranking thing is, aside from removing information from the system, from the measurement device, is propagating. Because one people is self-ranking, other people is tending to do it. So I'll stop this rant right now, but I really encourage you to think deeper about that, because it removes a lot of things from the system. To begin with, the totally randomized.
It forces to a large extent. It means at every single time there's not going to be unanimous agreement. because you can't vote for yourself. Now, a lot of this might be moot. Let me discuss a little bit about the direction we're going with the user interface. We had a great demo this week with the user interface, voting, video conference with the ranking interface, mocked in there and not plugged into the blockchain yet, but really, really slick. So I want to commend Brandon and Mike and some rest of the faculty team members that were involved in pulling that off. But the way the UI is going to work is you're going to have your video conference room of 6 on top. It works on a mobile device. And you just slide up and down to your rank, and it'll indicate whether or not there is consensus on a particular, it's probably easier to show, but you basically put your ranking, and the UI will tell you whether or not you're in agreement with everyone else, and whether or not everyone else is in agreement on a particular slot. So you might say, well, in slot 6, everyone else is in agreement who it is, but you're not in agreement on who's at level 6. And then you discuss with them to figure out, all right, how do I need to move my interface until everybody's ordered people in the same order, in which case everything will turn green and you can submit your vote. But effectively, you don't get to directly see what other people are voting or ranking. You just get to see, well, this is where I've put things, and you get to see if you are in agreement with everyone else on that order. And so as people are talking, you can just sort things by dragging up and down. And then when you've reached agreement, you hit submit. And with that interface in mind, there's no 3, 2, 1 reveal, because you're never actually seeing what everyone else is doing. You're just seeing that, well, everyone else is agreement on rank 6, but me. Who do you all put in rank 6 and why? And that's the simplest possible interface we could come up with that facilitates most of the coordination happening on the video and the discussion. And all the input is just focusing on your particular opinion. And so we'll put together a screen recording of what the experience will look like for you all. But that's the direction we're going, and we'd love to have a little bit of feedback on how you guys think that kind of interface will work for you. It's really, really slick. I can't commend the guys enough for what they've put together there. Go ahead, CryptoFit. CryptoFit, we can't hear you. You're muted. While you figure that out, or go to Dan Singjoy. Oh,
yeah. I mean, yeah, I was actually trying to figure out how to stop raising my hand, but I just to add that I really do think that you should be able to vote for yourself. Dan definitely should have been the top, if not the second person, and he should be voting. And he told everything he did, and obviously he's working on the project, you know, that needs to get. And he was saying that there's specific. He was saying that he needed that vote to get something done. So I thought that was kind of important to mention, you know. So yeah, he's pretty much letting you know he needs to be at the top or near the top. So.
All right, thank you. Dan Singjoy.
Yes, thank you, Dan. Thank you, everybody, very much. So I have, I don't know, I suppose a couple quick questions, or just something in general that I'm curious about, and it has to do with one. I suppose it's partly a bit of a promotion. I participated in the first Alien Worlds Fractal that Dwayne Filippi organized this week. and that was really cool. He posted the link above a while ago. I don't know if you guys have seen it or if I should repost the link, but that was really cool. And I'm sure Dwayne could share more about it. That might be cool too to hear from him. But there was like 10 of us, and it was really cool. I think it could be really helpful. Alien Worlds is the most popular blockchain game, with I think over 150,000 players playing every day. So I think that's amazing that Dwayne set that up, and it's not really my place to, I guess, like promote it because Dwayne's obviously leading it, but I think it'd be great to see more people there to help grow fractal governance. That's happening every Thursday at 16 UTC, I think. And then another thing that I'm wondering too, which is kind of related to this, is I noticed that Joshua shared some messages in the Telegram group for Fractally about like the new kind of moderation policy, and I understand like the desire to keep it more focused on Fractally itself and the Fractally Genesis group and constructive work specifically for Fractally. But I'm wondering, like, with regards to other fractals and experimenting with other fractals, like we're working on the Eden fractal and the Alien Worlds fractal, like what the policy should be for there. Like, is messaging about other fractals welcome in the Fractally main Telegram group? And then also I heard there was another plans for a Discord, so I'd be curious to learn that. Like, I think maybe if there's a Discord where there's different channels for different fractals or something, that might be cool. But I'm just not really sure exactly what the intent or what to welcome there. And I also want to just help promote the Alien Worlds fractal because I think that's really cool too. So yep, thank you for giving me a chance to share this, and feel free if I wasn't clear or anything like that to ask me for clarification.
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick before you go, Dan. The the new moderation policy is an experiment, and it's really organized around prioritizing the new people, keeping that particular, because Telegram is it's not like Discord. You don't have channels and stuff. So we want to try to keep it quality and focus, but we also want to drive people to the Go Fractally site and the Discord where we can organize things more. So for example, if you go to the Go Fractally site, you see the different fractals there. If you go to the Discord soon, and I don't exactly know how that's going to be organized going forward, so maybe the Fractally team can comment more on that, but there's a lot more we can do with Discord than what we can do with Telegram. The Telegram seems to historically attract a lot of toxicity, and I think it's polarizing new people, so that's part of the drive for new policy.
One of the points that I've made to Joshua and others is having a place for people to express things is very important, because if you don't give an outlet, they'll go find some outlet. But it's also a lot of work. The more open you have it, you do have to police it more. And so there's this balance there. And so it's going to really be a community effort. If someone wants to create a more open forum to discuss fractal governance and to moderate it enough to keep the toxicity out, then that would be good. But I agree, having tools like Discord and gofractally.com where we can organize things is better, and to, as quickly as possible, take new people from the public room into these other rooms, right? So it should be relatively easy to promote somebody into these other rooms so that the majority of the discussion happens in a friendly environment and not carrying on in the environment where we have a lot of toxic people that we need to filter out on a regular basis. So having a welcome room or waiting area where people can join, ask some questions, and then get invited into the other room. And then we can have a strict policy there where you be polite or you get booted back to the other room. And that's probably what's needed. Otherwise, fractal governance people will go to Eden channels, they'll go to the EOS channels, they'll go complain on Twitter. Why can't I get, there's just, you need to have an outlet for that energy. Is my only feedback in the mix. But you can understand, I think Joshua is doing a great job of managing the community resources there. So thank you, Josh. Dwayne.
Thanks, Dan, for just mentioning our meetup. It was started on Monday, and by Thursday we had about 25 people join the group and 10 joined the meetup. So our measurement of success for our first meeting was to have at least 2 breakout rooms. And I just wanted to be an example to other groups and other communities to just share in the experience. And if you are not familiar with alien worlds or even the wax blockchain, going through the first meeting, I understand how much work there is involved in organizing all this. And if we become very successful, I'm not going to be able to keep up just even with dispersing awards. So we gave out NFTs, a bunch of tokens, and created a new fractal token on Wax just to keep track of our Fibonacci distributions. So yeah, if you don't necessarily have to be knowledgeable about the game to participate, and for anybody here, I really thank you, Dan, and everyone that participated that had some experience with the fractal process to help everyone along in that first meeting. So it's a very valuable skill, and I use this. I've been every week I've been here, I've said I wanted a group to cast a wide net to for the passions that I'm very passionate about. But I realized the low-hanging fruit were the communities I'm already involved in. And we started the Crown community based off of EOS DAC and their DAC software, and followed them. It was the same group that made Alien Worlds. And their reason for the game was to gamify, have a game to show people what a DAC and DAO are. So their whole game is about teaching governance and giving these planets that they've created to the community. So I feel this is a real benefit for those people to learn about governance as well. But everyone's invited, and there's only one rule: if we stop having fun, there won't be any more Alien Worlds Fractal. So yeah, we're pretty pumped on keeping it light and fun. So thanks.
Excellent. Yeah, gaming is a huge place for fractal governance. Imagine all the, I don't do massively multiplayer games, but they have tribes and other groups of people that come together to like tackle some monster somewhere. And they usually have some leader or whatnot. But imagine if they could have a Zoom call like this, pick their leaders every week, and then go into battle knowing that there's going to be democratic. I think there's a huge potential in the gaming world to utilize this for those massive campaigns. And it's a great way to teach. Play is how people learn. So the more fun that people can have doing the process, the better, as far as I'm concerned. So great to hear what's going on there. Go ahead, Dan.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Dan. Thanks, Dwayne. Two things. So one, tying into what Shakuz was saying before about VR fractals and what we were talking about having fun. Going to the Alien Worlds fractal yesterday, or not yesterday, 2 days ago, it inspired me to think about like a potential future where a lot of people participate in like AR or VR fractal meetings. Like I was thinking about how I do these presentations like during my fractal meetings, and I'm working on a tutorial like to help share this the tools and skills and stuff necessary to give like cool visual presentations as part of it. And I was thinking that like combining that with the Alien Worlds, like I'd imagine, I don't know much about the game, but from what I understand, like there's a lot of really cool visuals, and I can imagine a future where there's like people going to the Alien Worlds Council like on their planet, and like the visuals are really cool. Like you see the planets around, and people are showing like the NFTs that they made or whatever during the presentation. So I feel like there's really cool potential for that. And so I just want to throw that idea out there. I think that this could evolve in a really interesting, exciting way like that. And then the other thing, I don't know if Shakuz wants to comment on that, but the other thing I was wondering too is just a clarification about the new Telegram channel and potentially a new Discord channel. Is it welcome to promote or bring up other fractals like the Alien Worlds fractal and Eden fractal, or you? Because I understand the politeness and like you don't want to invite the toxicity, but I'm wondering, is it specifically just for like just only the fractally, and it's not really encouraged to post about the Alien Worlds fractal or a new fractal or the Eden fractal or something like that? That was just something I'm still not clear about that I would appreciate clarification about.
Well, the stated mission of the Genesis fractal is to promote the adoption of fractal governance. We would be not to promote the centralized control of our fractal over all other fractals. That said, yeah, if we don't want to, we want to encourage all these other fractals to come and be a part of what we're doing, not to siphon users off. So that when we launch on chain, we can actually have mutual respect with these other fractals, right? And that's how we will grow, because we're 30 people, another fractal's 30 people, this game, Fractal Eden's 30 people. Pretty soon you get to thousands of people. And if you have mutual respect, then we all benefit and all boats rise. So we definitely need to be kept aware of these other fractals. We need to encourage people in those fractals to come here and help promote fractal governance as well as what they're doing, because fractal governance adoption will, in theory, benefit what they're doing. And it's just the common public good that we are trying to reward and incentivize. So some people from various other blockchains have reached out and expressed desire, and I've welcomed them to our group. I think we should welcome it. It should not be about who's better. It should be about politeness. It should be about, hey, how is fractal governance going in your group? How can we help you with fractal governance? Maybe keep some of the interest-specific stuff, like details of the game. Keep that in your game discussions. We don't care about the details of the game, but we do care about the fractal governance going on in your game. And so find the areas where we overlap. Welcome that discussion. Lessons learned from all the different places, and particularly if these other fractals are encouraging and driving members to our main fractal, that will help us grow more and get more people involved. I tried at the beginning, if you weren't here for the first half hour, to outline the critical necessity of fractal governance to solving all DAO problems. And that without something like fractal governance, DAOs will merely replicate the types of governance structures we already have in corporations, which is token weighted, or in democracies, which we've seen how both corporations and democracies have led to centralization of control, monopoly power. And that's the whole reason we're trying to create these DAOs and these new decentralized systems, is to escape that. And if we don't figure out how to govern ourselves better, then we will start out, it feels good, and then we end up centralized, and then we got to start all over. So it's critical at the very beginning that we figure out we got to do something different, or we're just going to get the same results, right? The definition of insanity. And that's what we're doing. That's the critical nature of what we're doing. It's what this governance process is more important than any technology, whether it's the new chain we're developing for Fractally or any other blockchain. The technology is not as important as the process. It's not as important as the people. It's not as important as the philosophy, because it's the philosophy and the process that's going to protect the people in the long run. Governments, no technology can escape government control, because people's consensus is the most powerful thing there is. With consensus, we can leave a gold standard. With consensus, we can go back to a gold standard. With consensus, we can do good things, and with consensus, we can do bad things. Consensus is what gives Bitcoin value, and consensus is what gives government power. So here's a mind bender for you. Governments are actually decentralized. Their power rests only on the consensus of the people. No Hitler is unilaterally strong enough to get millions of people to follow without the consensus of millions of people. What they do is they prevent people from reaching a new consensus on how to replace them. That's the only thing that keeps them in power, is preventing a new consensus. Well, what's the only thing that keeps Bitcoin protocol what it is? The difficulty in changing the protocol. The difficulty in reaching consensus on how to change it means that Bitcoin won't change until it gets centralized enough that people can change it unilaterally, and there's no competition. So what are you going to do? But consensus is the most powerful thing there is. And a large group of people coming to consensus can do anything. We shape our reality. We define property rights by consensus. And we either do a good job of it, in which case we all benefit, or we do a bad job of it and follow some corrupt leader who then uses our consensus to follow them to hurt us. And that is the challenge. So coming up with the processes to reach consensus, processes that maintain the power with the people to reach consensus, and that cannot be co-opted, that is perhaps the most important thing that we can figure out as the human race. And fractally may or may not be the ultimate solution, but it's at least different enough from everything that I've seen that's gone before that it's worth an area of investigation. And that's why what we are doing here is of critical importance to humanity. And it's a public good. The more decentralized you make it, it's really hard to profit from decentralization. And so you need a group of people to come together to reach consensus on valuing decentralization of power and subsidizing it. Because if you don't value and subsidize decentralization of power, centralization is more competitive than redundancy. And then we all lose. So that's the challenge we face. And I think we're making great strides in that direction. But if we lose sight of that mission and we don't remind ourselves of that, then we might lose the energy and the momentum. But I hope that helps provide some perspective. Shakuz.
Yes, thank you. First of all, that's what I want to say. Like, thank you. Right now, you've given amazing speech. I'm happy I'm recording it. And what I would like to ask you to put in the UI is the clapping, because there is time to support. It's good. Have you heard him? Like, why don't we give claps? We have to. We need this energy.
Thank you for all. Yes.
Because this is amazing content we're getting straight from Daniel Letterman. And yeah, and I want to support it. I was sitting here and trying to give reactions, like give it a light, give it some fun, so that Daniel can see the reaction of the whole of the meeting of people. Let's play with this UI. Let's play with these reactions. Like, this is what we have right now, and we can be creative with it. Like let's give a support to somebody who is talking about something and proposing something, right? We don't have time to discuss it, but we can give hearts, we can give claps. And what we're looking at right now is the most important UI we're building right now. This is the communication. This is the basis communication. We're reinventing everything. Like, if you need one app, this will be the app you will need, because I'm pretty sure in a while I'll be making money full time just by fractaling on different fractals. I can do that. I love that. I love my setup here at home. I can work anywhere I live, like any place. I just need a good microphone, good camera, good setup, so I look good. Daniel, by the way, I love the new background. It's great. Yes, it's happening. And then once you give yourself, with the bird, with this thing, you look amazing. Like, please try that again. Okay, I do select your photos because I need to publish them. With the beard, like it's feeling more masculine and greater, and it fits you. It fits you. I don't know why you took it away.
All right, I'll take that under consideration for next week.
Thank you. I do have a serious stuff to discuss too. I said, my proposal was to give hands, give claps. Let's play with the UI we have. Like, give a support to somebody. Let's play. Let's make it interesting on the screen as well. Because, just think about this. All these meetings are historical. What is being recorded right now is historical. It's launching 4th blockchain. like fourth blockchain. Like, can you imagine that? Vitalik built one, like rarely, like 1.5. But we have a man who built 3, and now we are part of the team of the fourth blockchain, like the best one on the market. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It's going to be the best.
Yeah, I know that. I'm trying to find something that is better, Daniel. Since 2017, I just can't. I can't go away. There is more money. There are funds. There is just money, literally, like flowing. Like, do anything on our chain, and we'll get you funded. And people go there, but they look at Wax, they look at Telus, they look at EOS. They say, like, why I don't launch my game there or my NFT collection there? That is the best technology. And as a developer, and that is your work. That is your work. But I understand why you had to break away from EOS, which is the most important drama right now. But people have to understand that this is important to launch it fast, not to go the Vitalik's way of doing something for years and still, where are you? $125 gas fee? Like, fucking kidding me? Like, this is crypto. No, there's no casino. But that is a casino there. But there is real stuff here. The real stuff is here because it works. I know that because I'm coding dApps, and I love the concept of the dApp. I have a little business. I have a little app that is making me crypto. It's not gambling. It's not trading. It's making crypto. It's a service. It's mining tokens in a game on the Wax blockchain, and it's analyzing your account. It's a wallet. It's analyzing your account in terms of that game and calculates all the stuff that is in your wallet, gives it a price, market price, real one, calculates it in a way, and then shows you all the accounting stuff, like what is your farm about, like how much stuff you have, what you can do it. And then it's doing automatic cropping and claiming and watering and fixing and recovering, because you don't want to do that. You just want to make money and do the strategy, like how many farms do I have? How many stuff do I build? Like, what am I going to buy? A chainsaw or a boat or whatever. And this is why people come into Wax, and Wax is an amazing place right now. It's showing like things that should have been done, like in a way, because they didn't have to go with EOS as a name. They made a new name. It's unknown. It just works in there. So it's an amazing blockchain, and it's your baby as well, Daniel, because that's the technology behind it. But now I'm really waiting for the next one. And a lot of stuff that as a developer I've been waiting for, like the account creation problem. Like, I'd love to discuss that. And if we have the discussions, like every Saturday I come here because I know Daniel is going to be there. And all that is stuff being recorded. And these discussions are important. And I'd like to be not just supportive of the fractally as a governance idea, but also in this group support the building of the blockchain, because it's the technical part is also important. And if we have the best UI, a good UI, like a little bit better than Zoom, like it's not like really complicated to make something that's a little better than Zoom. Besides, we have all the layers, we have the the WebRTC and all that stuff. We just need to put it together. So it will take some time, which is great. Now we're figuring out the UI, like what do you do? How do you make it fun? And I don't know if you have this, Daniel. Like, do you? Are you?
I don't have one. That type of technology makes me sick. I got my career started in virtual reality back in 2002, 2003, when graphics really weren't up to it. But yeah, that
But you haven't tried lately, have you?
I tried about 3 years ago, and it was really impressive how far it's come.
Yeah, it's the Oculus 2. Well, if you get the chance, if you get the Oculus 2, we'll meet in VR.
All right.
And this could be something new, different. Yes. But this is also something that is a UI, because what if we build fractally there in UI in VR?
Oh, absolutely. It can be applied anywhere. One of the things that I wanted to highlight as far as like creating multiple fractals, the blockchain is going to need its own governance fractal, which might be independent from the Genesis fractal per se, because the people that are interested in governing and running a blockchain, who's going to be the block producers, who's going to fund development, might be slightly different than the mission of generally promoting fractal democracy, but both can run on the same chain, right? One's a fractal running on the chain and one's the fractal governing the chain. And it can start out with the same group of people and you can have mutual respect and attend both meetings if you care about both. And they can both have the initial distribution that we're already doing here. But that concept of many fractals in different domains cooperating together for mutual respect creates a web of shared value that can be incredibly strong and rewards people most directly in the area they're making the biggest contribution. So I haven't figured out all the details there, but I'm guessing that the way things will evolve is that the governance aspect of a blockchain is going to be one type of work that's slightly different than, say, promoting fractal governance generally, which is what we're doing here. So if you're interested in being a block producer on such a chain, please reach out to us because we're going to need some initial block producers to bootstrap that chain. We're making good progress on that this week. We've had some huge breakthroughs in how decentralized apps work from a user interface perspective and from a key management perspective. Internally, we have this strong desire to make things open source, but we also have this recognition that our only competitive advantage in the open source world is to be the first to deploy the software, which means keeping the ideas close to vest until they're out and then launching and being the first to launch with the software. And so for the benefit of the community and everyone here, we are keeping it closer while it's being developed, just because opening it up too early introduces coordination, collaboration, overhead. It slows things down. And we just want to get this out as soon as possible. Some members of our team have expressed frustration that we can't share the work they're working on, especially because Fractally is committed to open source development. And so I've really been asking the team to play things close to the vest until we get there for the best interest of the community. But we all really want to open source this as quickly as possible. And I ask that if they are on your team, even though they can't disclose all the details, know that they're doing groundbreaking work and that I am thrilled to be working with the best team I've ever worked with. And that's saying a lot. So, Andrew.
Yeah, I'm curious because I know, so I've like booted up a few like Node.js instances on my computer, a pretty old laptop, 2015 MacBook Pro. What sort of, I seem to remember you mentioning that the Fractally chain was going to have lower resource requirements than the EOS chain. So I'm just curious presumably the better your computer is, the better. Just like on EOS, if you got a good processor, then or rather you want block producers with really good hardware so that it's super performant. Is there a minimum hardware requirement for the Fractally chain that you're anticipating?
Yeah, that's a complicated question because there's the how fast can we push it if we centralize it as much as possible? By centralize as much as possible, I mean have all the block producers have the best possible node with the highest possible bandwidth and have the APIs centralized. One of the things that we'll be able to do with fractal governance that we were not able to do with EOS is have the block producers provide full API nodes and all kinds of other subjective things that we just could not hold the block producers accountable to on EOS, because the exchanges were voting. And we kind of solve all of those problems of the public good side of things, which on one hand can allow things to scale bigger while still providing more infrastructure for the app developers. On the other hand, there's an argument to be made that the change should be kept intentionally smaller than it's able to handle, which means all the efficiency gains are geared toward saving resources so that it can be run on home computers. And maybe each fractal or each blockchain only has 10,000 users per chain, but they're organized in a fractal way. So you've got chains of chains of chains. And no one chain has to have everything. And you pick one or two local chains to run in your computer, and so forth. So in theory, the main benefits of the new blockchain that we have is that we can scale beyond RAM without performance cratering. But as you go beyond RAM, your performance will go down. It just won't go down as far as EOS goes down, right? Which reduces costs. But long before the database and whatnot impact performance, your home internet connection is not going to be able to sustain thousands of transactions per second in any meaningful way. So, the argument of things are cheaper by the dozen, transactions are cheaper as you scale, communities, tokens are valued more as you get bigger. The more people involved, the more valuable the token, which is why if we want to scale, we got to really figure out this mutual respect thing to link everything together and scale up that way so that all these microcurrencies can collectively have liquidity and value. But yes, technologically, you'll be able to scale with more data storage than EOS. Otherwise, it's going to be using a derivative of EOS VM. So that's going to be kind of similar. But I think the main thing that you'll appreciate about what we're doing is the developer experience. If you're a developer, you'll be able to build and deploy applications that do all kinds of things that you just cannot do on the EOSIO chains. So that's my long-winded answer to say that there's no precise hardware requirements other than what the governance of the community decides they want to put as their block size limit. Or do they want to go to the extreme and be as big as possible? Or do they want to be as decentralized as possible? And the software will support both extremes quite well.
That's interesting. That provided a lot of insight. Thanks.
Yeah.
And I'm very familiar with those challenges. I don't deal with them myself, but I work with Matthew Darwin is very sort of involved in that, and so I'm very familiar with the issues that come with an incredibly high performance blockchain like EOSIO, which sounds like a great thing until you think about like what I would need, for example, in order to run it. It's super.
Yeah, it becomes centralized in the infrastructure merely because of the cost of running a full node, which means you have API providers that filter out the data and then you subscribe to it. And then they become the gatekeepers, and it doesn't matter what the block producers say. It matters how do you get access to the fire hose of data. And just the nature of information means that economically it will be centralized. And so you have to put artificial limits on things to remain decentralized, but then that reduces competitiveness. One thing I will say that the EOS blockchain suffers from was it got a lot of spam because it had high transaction capacity and it charged almost nothing for it. It underpriced the long-term costs that were socialized from that. And so even though a network might be able to be really cheap, I think having a minimum kind of fee or cost or threshold so that you don't get spam, so you kind of respect that you'd rather do nothing than allow spam, because that creates long-term overhead. So you kind of establish what's the minimum value of something we want to have on-chain versus off-chain, which would protect the long-term interests. We got a new resource model that will end RAM speculation. So that hopefully will reduce costs on that front, as well as increasing the supply with disk-based options. So those are the things that we're doing there. And I truly believe that what we are producing is going to be groundbreaking and change the way people build decentralized applications and the way decentralized applications talk to each other, and the ease with which that's done. I know I've got some very smart developers on my team that they're very familiar with what's out there, and they are thrilled at the breakthroughs that we have, that we just can't wait to share, but we're keeping it close so that our chain can be the first to bring these particular solutions to market. So,
well, thank you very much, Dan and everyone. This has been a really great meeting, and I'll be posting the recording either over the weekend or early next week, like maybe sometime Monday at the latest, in the Go Fractally, in the Genesis Fractal group on the gofractally.com site. And then I'll post a link to it in the public Telegram. If just a reminder, like in between the next week or so, that there's new stuff in the community to introduce people. So I encourage you to send them to the welcome series videos that we have. And in some of those first posts, there's links to the Calendly that we've been circulating, so they can if they book a session, they can talk to myself or they can talk to Matt Langston, and that way you don't have to spend too much time in trying to onboard people. But we kind of have processes now to make that a little bit smoother, and the more that you refer them, we can see where things are being dropped and what we can do to help people get on board. Thank you everyone for being here, and we're looking forward to seeing you next week.
All right.
All right. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Recording stopped.